Hello everyone, I am Dr. Piyush Mahajan. I am from Amritsar. I am an assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry in Shri Guru Ramdas Medical College, Amritsar. And today here I am with you to speak on the topic attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Actually, I have since a long time craved to speak for on this topic because I have seen that there are a number of cases these days that are coming to us with this diagnosis. And as we all know that this diagnosis is very common in childhood, so we see a lot of children with such diagnosis. But I want to make it clear, and by the end of this session or end of this video, you'll get to know that ADHD is not only common in children, it can also be seen in adults, and it is just a myth that ADHD only happens in children. So now let's start with the topic. So ADHD does not come with a visible injury or something that people can see. It is not like a bandage or something like that. So it becomes very easier for people to judge the patients of ADHD when they literally have no idea what they are talking about. And ADHD is never caused by bad or lazy parenting. It is just a neurobiological disorder, like many other psychiatric disorders. And there is some associated underlying brain circuits dysfunction that is noticed in ADHD. So it is neurobiological in nature. I wish more people could take time to really get into what ADHD is before criticizing it. So let's start with the main highlights of my topic, that is the myths and facts about ADHD. First, I'll quote the myths. One by one, I'll be mentioning the myths. So, the most common myth that I have seen practically in my OPD, and I have read also from other authors, or I have talked with other physicians and consultant psychiatrists, they have told me that this myth is very common. So, what is this myth? ADHD does not exist at all. There is no such medical condition called as ADHD. This is a very common myth. Second, ADHD is an overdiagnosed condition. ADHD is a very underrated problem, and some people call it as overdiagnosed condition. ADHD, third myth. ADHD is only a problem in children. What I was initially talking about during the start of my lecture. Fourth, everyone with ADHD has the same symptoms. Fifth, only boys have ADHD. Sixth, girls don't get ADHD. Seventh, children with ADHD are often naughty and troublesome. Eighth, everyone has a little ADHD. Ninth, ADHD is caused by bad parenting. All the child needs is good discipline, and that is all that will cure the ADHD as per some people. Unmedicated ADHD is better than any ADHD that is treated on medications. Medicine for ADHD will make it worse. It will never treat it. This is also a very common myth. Children who take ADHD are more likely to abuse drugs than the normal population, and versus other children of ADHD who do not take any medication. So there is a tendency for children who take ADHD drugs that they will become drug dependent or they will abuse drugs in their growing years or in the teen years. 12th myth. ADHD is just an excuse for laziness, and children with ADHD are learning to use the condition as an excuse for their behavior. People with ADHD just need to try harder. This is just another myth. They can try harder and their symptoms will improve, their ADHD will improve. 15th myth. All kids with ADHD are hyperactive. They have the same symptoms, that is of hyperactivity. 16th, ADHD is a learning disability. It is like other learning disabilities, reading disabilities, writing disabilities. So it is also one of the learning disability. People with ADHD are smart but unfocused. Another myth, all children eventually grow out of ADHD. Another myth, adults with ADHD just need to grow up or stop acting like children. Some people think that adults who have ADHD, they are just childish. They behave like children. They just need to grow them or outgrow themselves into adults as less frequently as children. 20th myth, or the last myth I need to quote, is junk food and sugar leads to ADHD. So these were the myths that frequently I have seen, I have read, and they are frequently talked about in our literature and also by my fellow colleagues. So let's now talk about the facts. Against these myths, there are facts or there are practical things that should be kept in mind. Myths should never be kept in mind, and we should all understand the very basis of ADHD. This will be cleared in the facts that I am quoting. The number one fact, what initially I told, ADHD is a medical disorder. It is not caused by any kind of bad parenting. It is not caused by the child's own will, and it is neurobiological in nature. A child with ADHD does not choose to misbehave. It is not by his voluntary will. It is by his defective circuits in the brain that are leading to his symptoms. And so these circuits need to be realigned. They need to be treated for the symptoms to be resolved. So a neurobiological basis is the very much known fact that have been studied, and so it is treated accordingly. Second, ADHD is not caused by bad parenting. This is in continuation with the first fact, but parenting techniques can definitely improve some symptoms. It is not like that ki bad parenting will definitely lead to ADHD. But yes, ADHD once occurs, it is caused a neurobiological dysfunction, but bad parenting can aggravate the symptoms of ADHD. So by improving the parenting style, learning some new parenting skills can lessen the burden of symptoms and can help treat ADHD. It will not cure. For curing and treating, we have to correct the underlying defective circuits. That will be done by medication after consultation with a psychiatrist. So these are the most important facts that we need to know about ADHD. There isn't a single cause of ADHD. As I was talking about, ADHD is a neurobiological disorder. I would further split this neurobiological disorder into three parts. You can quote it as biopsychosocial disorder. There are some biological factors, there are some psychological factors, and there are some social factors. It will be much easier if we understand disorder in this way. What are the biological factors? By biological factors, I mean the defective circuits, the underlying defective genes that have been inherited from birth, from his parents. And this is the biological part. What is the psychological part? By psychological part, I mean the patient's own personality, child's own personality, his level of functioning, the skills he has learned, his coping mechanisms. So these also play a part in the development of this disorder. The third part, or the social part, what is this biopsychosocial? Third part is social. These are the environmental causes. These environmental causes, these can be divided into parenting styles, any kind of stressors noticed from the environment, any parental conflict, any dispute in the family, any burden on the child, maybe any kind of. So all the environmental or the social stressors will come under this social category. So it will be easy for us to understand if we divide the ADHD in or classify it as biopsychosocial disorder rather than neurobiological only. So this is another way to understand the fact related to ADHD. ADHD symptoms can get in the way of learning. They can lead to learning problems like patient with ADHD, child with ADHD. He may not be able to focus himself or focus while he is studying or while he is made to study. He'll be very much distracted. But ADHD per se does not cause any kind of learning disabilities. What are learning disabilities? Learning disabilities are another set of diseases. It will be wrong on my side to quote it as learning disability as a disease. It is a disorder. In learning disability, child has reading problem, child has writing problems, scholastic performance is impaired. It is not such kind of problem that is faced in ADHD. But due to ADHD, patients have symptoms of hyperactivity. He has symptoms of inattentiveness. He has symptoms of impulsivity. Due to these symptoms, while reading, while hearing to his teachers, listening to teachers, he may not be able to follow his teachers. He may not be able to do his homework. Like for example, a child with ADHD is told to read a chapter or read a para. He will not be able to concentrate because his mind is very hyperactive. For a moment it is stuck on this point, and for the other second it will be distracted by any kind of external stimulus. So his concentration will be impaired. That will present to us that the child is having problems with studying, but it is not learning disability per se. And when the symptoms of child's ADHD like hyperactivity, impulsivity, and inattentiveness are treated, his learning impairment, his learning disabilities, you can say it is wrong to say learning disabilities, but the learning problems will definitely improve. But in learning disabilities per se, there is not much improvement on treatment of on any medical treatment. So this is the main distinguishing point between ADHD and learning disabilities. Another important myth that we need to understand is ADHD does not have anything related, or ADHD has nothing to do with the child's or the person's intellectual ability. Some people with very high IQ have ADHD, and you will be astonished to know that many of our colleagues or many of the literate people we have in this society, to whom we call as cream of the society, they often had ADHD in their childhood. Many successful people, I am not able to quote, or I am not able to remember at this point the famous personalities who had ADHD in their childhood, but definitely you can get literature about such personalities. So it is not that अगर कोई भी बच्चे को ADHD है, he will be he will have a low IQ, his mental capacity is low. It is not like that. He can be very much like normal children, or he can have very high IQ. There are very less chances that the IQ is less, but rare chances are there that IQ can be impaired. But only IQ can be acknowledged only after treating the symptoms of ADHD. We should never evaluate the child IQ when the child is hyperactive, when the child is inattentive, when the child is impulsive. Because if IQ test is performed at this moment when the child has these symptoms which are in a very severe form, he will never be able to perform in a very genuine way, and the IQ scores will be less. So it is prudent that we perform the IQ test only when the child's symptoms of hyperactivity and inattentive have resolved with medical treatment, and only then we should take the test and get his true IQ. So this is a very important point that we should all know, or we should be able to understand. Now, there was a myth that everyone with ADHD has same type of symptoms, or everyone with ADHD had a hyperactivity symptom. It is not like that. As I have been talking about since I had started talking about facts, that there are three types of symptoms. These are hyperactivity, impulsivity, and inattentive. Some children can present with symptoms of hyperactivity, and some children can present with symptoms of inattentiveness. Mostly it is like all the three symptoms are clubbed together, and mostly they all are seen together. And how do we make the diagnosis of ADHD? It is when these symptoms occur in more than two settings. What do I mean by saying that more than two settings? For example, a child has these symptoms and his teacher told that these symptoms have been noticed in his class. And second, we observe in our clinics. And third, parents come and tell us that even at home he has these same symptoms. So by this system we make the diagnosis. Now I'm over with these the facts about ADHD. So I hope the myths and the facts are some clear to you now. So what is the potential impact of ADHD on the mental aspect of the children? Low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, substance misuse, difficulty forming relations, sleep problems, being the victim of bullying. These 5 to 6 points are very important as far as mental health impact of ADHD is concerned. Often the children with ADHD they are bullied in the school because they are very easily identified in the crowd due to their problems like of hyperactivity, impulsivity, and they are often bullied by other children, and they are often scolded by teachers even if they don't have done any kind of nuisance, but their name will come out first because their hyperactivity is always noticeable. So due to these issues, constant bullying, constant scolding, they become they develop a sense of low self-esteem. Even their parents scold them. Whenever they go out, their parents will often say, "You always prove me wrong. You are a cursed child." I have even seen parents who say such kind of words because the parents are also fed up with such kind of children, and some wordings are used by the parents that lead to the child's self-esteem lowering. Another important impact is anxiety and depression. Low self-esteem is a different thing, but if the lower self-esteem part persists for some time, the child can go into depression. He can go into or convert into anxiety disorder. These are also very common. Or sometimes children, when they grow up, they develop substance dependence. This is not due to their symptoms of hyperactivity or impulsivity, but this is due to the low self-esteem that have become or it has ingrained in their personality itself, that leads to substance dependence. Because to overcome their low self-esteem, to develop a sense of confidence, they start taking some drugs, and totally slowly, gradually, they become drug dependent. So these are the harmful effects or the mental health impacts of ADHD. Another thing I missed was sleep problems. Often the children with ADHD are seen to have been sleep deprived. So this also becomes an issue and it needs to be treated. Now, how can we help these children? Are there some measures? Yes. First is contact with a psychiatrist. That is very, very important. You should definitely identify a child with these symptoms, whether it is your own child, whether it is your friend's child, or anyone in your circle. Take him to a psychiatrist, get him evaluated from a psychiatrist. He'll further get him evaluated from a psychologist. And medications can be started. There are multiple medications, and medications are always must. You should always remember this point. Don't underplay the role of medications. Many parents come and say, Doctor Saab, we do not want medication, we just want therapy. When the symptoms are acute, we need to give treatment. That treatment needs to be very aggressive. And only after that treatment or alongside that treatment, we need to give some non-pharmacological measures. Apart from medication, what therapies when we can give? One is reinforcement. What is reinforcement? Reinforcement is we give some positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement or punishment. By positive reinforcement, we need to appreciate anything a child does that is good for him or good for the family. If a child with ADHD who has from a long time not done his homework, and if on treatment he starts doing his homework, you should always appreciate him. give him some reward. This will reinforce his behavior in a positive way. He'll start practicing this art, and he knows that by doing my homework, I'll be rewarded. So his positive aspect of his behavior will be reinforced. What is negative reinforcement? Sometimes a child with ADHD does commit a mistake. Do not be harsh on that child. Just remove some of the privileges that were being given to him for some time. Like many times in with our children, we do that. If you do this, we'll provide you this, and he is given 2 hours of watching TV or 2 hours of browsing his tab or something like that. So such privileges are often given. When a child commits such any behavior that is not appreciated, we can withdraw those privileges for some time and ask the child or negotiate with the child till the time you do not remove such kind of behavior, no privilege shall be given to you. So this can also be practiced. Third is punishment. Punishment should always be reserved in for any extreme scenarios, like a child does something that is very that is not acceptable at all. He bullies someone, he pushes someone, he injures someone. Only then we should think of giving punishing him. Timeout is another strategy. If the child commits such kind of mistake or any kind of behavior that is not acceptable, give him timeout. Timeout, you can read what is timeout exactly. I'm just short of time, so I'll just move further. By such kind of reinforcement, the best is positive reinforcement. His self-esteem will increase. He'll have a good sense of his confidence will increase, and he'll become more positive in his attitude towards life. Create a structure, create a routine. That is very important, or the next important point apart from reinforcement. Always schedule their activities. Keep morning, this is the time you have to do that, you have to go to school. Afterwards, at this time you have to do homework, this time then you can play, and this time you go to sleep. So everything should be structured. When there is unstructured environment, the child will become more distracted. Third, break any task, maybe any task, into small steps, because a child with ADHD always has a tendency or a predisposition for distractibility. If the task is complicated, he'll become confused and he'll not be able to concentrate. So break any kind of activity into small steps and ask the child or try positively reinforcing his behavior by learning those step by step tasks to complete the entire task. So that will be very much useful for the child's treatment apart from medications. Another important thing for the children with ADHD is create a special quiet environment for their learning. When the child is when we are making the child do their homework, or we are talking to him while they are doing their homework, you should keep all the distractions separate from the child. What are the common distractions? TV, video games, any kind of sound, music system, any person who comes in, goes out, little children, brothers, sisters, sibling. So when he is doing his homework, try keeping these distractions to a minimum. Another thing we can do to improve his symptoms non-pharmacologically is we can promote exercise. We can promote any physical activity. Exercise, what common exercise is? Brisk walking is what I recommend for everyone. It is very essential, or it is a very good activity that is very good for your health. And from as little as 5 years old to as high as 80 years old person, it is always beneficial. So brisk walking in ADHD or any kind of disorder, that should always be followed. What do I mean by brisk walking? You have to walk in a very fast way, and one thing you can do, that you can yourself as a parent do brisk walk and make your child, he will follow you, and make this a routine. You take out your time and take your child along and do brisk walking. So both the things will be done. Your health will be also good. Your health burden or the mental burden that you have been facing due to ADHD of your child will also be lessened along with the child's physical symptoms. When a child with ADHD does any kind of exercises, his hyperactivity or the energy that entrails within will be lessened. His hyperactivity will definitely reduce. Another exercise is yoga. Can be he can be made to done yoga. He can be made to learn yoga asanas. These are very common exercises that can be followed for such kind of children. Regulate child's sleeping patterns, when to go to bed, when to wake up. This is very important. Some children or some parents, I have seen that when there is a function at home, the child's also going along with them. And the parents often forget, mothers frequently, that we need to make our child sleep on time. So this should not be done, because if specifically children with ADHD, if sleeping pattern is disturbed, they'll definitely have symptoms the very next day, and they'll be irritated, and they can again have the same symptoms, and they'll not feel well. So it is better to make them regulate their sleep patterns always, and by always I mean always. Now, the most important thing, believe in your child. Every child is special. There is nothing like that. If someone has ADHD, default we say that he has these symptoms and he's not a very good child, he'll not do anything in his future. Never think like that. Every child is special by default, or by unlucky he is that he has been having these symptoms. And definitely when these symptoms happen, he can be a very great man in his future. He can become very great. He can learn very new things, and he can learn things like others also. So no need to say these kind of words to anyone around your child, and directly to your child. You never know what words goes and they get deeply embedded in his brain, and such words can frequently lead to depression in his adult years. And this should always be kept in mind. You should always acknowledge what the child possesses, what the skills he has, and what problems he's facing. We need to work upon the problems, and we need to positively reinforce the skills he has. By doing this, your child will start doing better and better. Last, I want to say that when to approach us, or when to approach a psychiatrist. As I have already told, that to make a diagnosis of ADHD, you need to have symptoms of hyperactivity, impulsivity, inattentiveness, and these symptoms should be present in more than two settings. And if grossly you find that such symptoms have been seen in two settings, go to a psychiatrist. Do not worry. It is not a sense of mental weakness. It is not something like that, and it should never be stigmatized. Because agar in that period you do not get your child treated, you'll always repent, or you'll always have remorse that why did I miss my child's treatment during such growing years. I should have recognized this. I should have known about this disease in my very young years. So always get yourself, also always try to learn what is ADHD. Make your friends, make your neighbors who don't have much knowledge about ADHD, make them understand. So this is the way to promote awareness about ADHD. Last, in this session, I just want to highlight that apart from children, parents who are working with their children who are having ADHD are also very stressed. There is a lot of care burden while managing such patients. Some mothers are really pissed off. They say ki, I cannot handle my child, because there are often periods when the child becomes very aggressive also. He breaks things. And due to these small incidents, mothers I am quoting, because it is mostly the mothers who are directly dealing with the children. fathers I have seen less often who directly deal in such diseases. So they have a lot of burden. So they themselves should always take care of their health. I told that follow brisk walking, take your child along with you. That will be good for you. Take help if you feel that you are not feeling well, you feel depressed, you are already visiting a psychiatrist. Tell him that I'm also not able to sleep. I feel depressed throughout. I have anxieties. I do not feel good. So he can also treat you, manage you, advise medications or whatever you or therapy, whatever that will be recommended. So these things should always be kept in mind. Other options that you can explore as a parent is going to a gym, taking a relaxing bath, calm yourself, yoga exercises, deep breathing exercises. There is one more term or exercise called as progressive muscle relaxation. It is called as PMR. So it is also very good exercises. It relaxes your body from head to toe, so that you can follow. So this is all what I wanted to convey through my session about ADHD. What are the symptoms? What are the facts? What are the myths? I hope that this session creates some kind of stimulus for others to learn, and from those others to their others, and the chain keeps on going, and we create an environment in which children with ADHD are managed in a very polite way. We do not stigmatize such illness. That will be the time when we will say that we are doing justice with mental health by acknowledging ADHD and managing such children. Thank you so much.